Hi, everybody, and welcome to the December meeting of the Bike Walk Commission. I'm Tanner Thompson. I'm the chair. We've also got Emily Brenneman, the vice chair, and Manny Salgado, Christine Biscaglia, Nick Pappas, commissioners as well. I guess sometimes commissions do a roll call. I guess that's the closest thing we're going to get to a roll call tonight. But we're going to go right ahead with the agenda. We've got first on the agenda public comment. And after the public comment, I'll give a quick overview of the rest of the agenda, and then we'll dive into it. But if you, Emily?
Yeah, I was just going to say we do have someone in attendance tonight, Al Ford, and I'd like to introduce him if that's okay with you. He has a public comment.
Sure, yeah. It looks like Al, you've unmuted yourself, so go ahead, Emily.
Al, I met Al. Oh, hi, Al. We met at the Gratitude on the Green event not too long ago in Norwalk, and Al runs an organization called Pray for Peace Walks, and I'll let him kind of dive into what he does, but I wanted to give him the opportunity to speak to us with the Bike Walk Commission about opportunities to do these walks that he has been doing around Norwalk and across the country for the past, couple years, maybe even decades. And so I'll let him dive in and do that.
Okay, my name shows up, but how do I get my picture to show up?
I think you'll have to click on the bottom left. There might be a start video button. Are you on a computer?
I am.
Yeah, do you see in the bottom left, do you see a little video icon that says start video?
I see mute.
Yeah, next to that.
Tanner, I think when they come in as an attendee, I don't think they have the option to share video.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
Go ahead, Al.
Now I can eat while I talk, which most of me eating good. So I've been organizing and doing Pray for Peace walks since about 2008. The first one was from Yankee Stadium to Chicago. The sole purpose of the walks is to spread the message of praying for peace. And since then, let's see, we've had at least a dozen or more Fairfield County Pray for Peace walks. They vary in size from 3 people to 50 people. And so I'm interested to see if you'd like to participate, if I could do something with your group to help to do something to spread the message of praying for peace while doing a walk.
Gotcha. Can you give us a little more info about what the walks tend to look like and maybe what the last one was like, where it was held, and how many people show up, the route, that kind of stuff.
So there's a website. Why don't you look at that?
Okay.
I don't know how to get that to you, but it's www.prayforpeacewalks.org. That's plural.
Yep, found it.
That gives me the background. Oh, wow. How come it's on my screen?
I just found it and I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, I look real handsome. Thank you. So, if you go down there to the 2002 and no, back up.
Oh, sorry.
No, back up. Okay, right there. Just click on that. If someplace in here. Oh, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, this looks like a YouTube video.
It is.
All right.
So that's going to be the walk we did. A group of us.
Sorry, go ahead.
A group of us going from Grand Central Station to Yankee Stadium to pray for peace, to Yankee Stadium for a Boston Yankee game, and about 120 people went. All right, and if you page down a little, there's when we walked the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Stamford. I don't know if I have any more. Keep on paging down. I don't know what I have here. Oh, no. So I don't have any of my, oh wait,
Looks like this one was initiated for
Fireworks, if you press that button over there,
prior walks. I mean, this,
and there's a little thing that's it. Keep going. I'm trying to see if we have one. Oh,
Well, Al, would it be okay if I shared the printouts you shared with me on
oh,
like
sure, that'd be great.
Okay, so I don't have these scanned, but okay, hold on, let me unblur my camera. But one thing Al was looking to do was these walks along Route 1. And so he has planned here like examples of mileage that he would
Oh,
want to
good.
do down Route 1 that, you know, is here in Norwalk. And he wants to get a group together to walk down this, you know, area of Norwalk. So I reached, you know, we connected and talked about how, you know, Norwalk Bike Walk could possibly collaborate or assist in that sort of walk opportunity, or at least support and give some sort of safety, security.
Right.
gotcha. How many people do you usually have attending these, Al?
Oh, recently, as many as 40 to 50 people.
Gotcha. And so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, if you did this in Norwalk, if that would like need to go through some sort of special permit, like would you want to get one or more lanes of a road closed for the walk, or are you just thinking like a group walk on the sidewalk?
It might be basic, depending on how many people we can sign up for it, all right? It won't be till the summertime sometime.
Okay.
And then-
But the reason I ask is because if you want to go the route of closing down or closing to car traffic any lanes of roads, then there's a pretty involved process that we actually went through earlier this year for an event that we did. That has to go through the city's traffic commission. You know, similar to like if we hosted a 5K, or like just a few months ago, there was a half marathon, the Sono half, that required closing a lot of streets to cars in order for runners to go through. And so if you wanted to go that route, if you had enough people that you need to go that route, there's a fair amount of bureaucracy that you have to navigate there. And we could certainly advise you on that. If it's just a smaller group that is going to be on the sidewalk, I imagine that you could just kind of self-organize. I'm not sure what the laws are there. As far as our group getting involved, I don't know if this is related enough to the mission of the Bike Walk Commission to co-sponsor this in particular, because there's a religious element. I mean, personally, I am religious and I support the mission, but I'm not sure if the city would be on board with supporting it more organizationally. Is there a specific ask that you have for us? I'd like to accommodate you to the degree that we can.
So let me tell you what my proposal would be. So again, most of these have been Fairfield County Pray for Peace walks. One went from Darien to Stamford, and another leg went from Greenwich to Stamford. So I don't know if Norwalk to Stamford would be to be too long for walkers, because that's about 5 to 6 miles. So what I would like to do, okay, I'll tell you what I like, is to go from Norwalk to Darien to Stamford. And then from another leg going from Greenwich to Stamford. All right. And I could change that up. And the purpose is so it'd be called a Fairfield County Pray for Peace walk. So we'll incorporate as many of our cities as possible. That's reasonable.
So maybe Al, it might help to explain a little bit more what the role of this commission is. We advise the city on matters having to do with walking and biking. Typically, those are matters of policy and of like infrastructure projects that the city is, you know, rebuilding a street, or if the city is considering some major change to, installing sidewalks, for example. We also have done events here and there to raise awareness about pedestrian safety and to encourage people to walk and bike for recreation and for transportation. But as far as advising other groups or co-planning events, I think that we can do that to the extent that it's encouraging people to get out there, but I still don't understand exactly what sort of support you're looking for.
I wasn't sure either. Oh, first would be walkers. People took what, that's not, I know to have walkers, and we would have either T-shirts or posters.
Walking, but also the areas that Al has proposed walking along may not have sidewalks along Route 1. It may not be a safe place for walkers to be. So in order to, again, promote safety of people walking along Route 1 in this effort, of whether or not, Bike Walk Commission is involved, can we advise him on routes to take for these Prayer for Peace walks?
I'm not sure if we can do it in like an official capacity, but obviously the members of the commission are welcome to. Emily, if you wanted to, or if you want to tap other members for help with that.
I think, yeah, that's where we're headed with that. And then if there was an event where he needed participants, is that something the Bike Walk Commission can do, or is that something that we can refer him?
You mean for like promotion?
I guess, yeah, it would be promotion.
I think that if if there's like a website or a social media post that we can refer people to, I think that it's reasonable for us to cross promote some event that's going to include walking as a main component. But I mean, if other commissioners have opinions, I'm happy to hear them, but we are already over time for the public comment section, and we have some other.
Okay, so good. This is a good starting point. So I'll be able to put together a little more, now that I understand what you guys do. Let me think about it, put together a clearer proposal or a clearer request.
Yeah, I think if you want to work with Emily through this, since she's your first point of contact, Emily, keep me up to date on how that goes, and if there's something that needs to be brought in front of the commission, or could be, and I'll advise you as to whether we should bring it to the meeting or otherwise.
Okay, thank you, Tanner.
Yeah. Are there other members of the public? Oh, Al, thank you for coming to the meeting. I forgot to ask, are you a Norwalk resident? Do you live here?
I live in Stamford.
In Stamford.
Lived in Norwalk though at one time.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for coming to our meeting.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public who want to address the commission? Alrighty, then we'll move on to our next agenda item, and that is bike parking standards in the zoning rewrite. And this is my item. So I was able to meet with Steve Kleppen and Brian Baker, who are the director and principal planner for the Planning and Zoning Department. As most of you, if not all of you know, the city has been working for the last several months to completely rewrite the city's zoning code. And one of the things, Steve even came to our meeting, I think, or maybe Brian did, I think Steve did, and presented a summary of the new regulations several months ago. We asked some questions about the bicycle parking rules that are in there. To summarize, the new regulations as proposed would require larger multifamily developments to include bike parking. And after a certain size, they were required to be covered. And I appreciated both of those, but I think that as the commission, we can lend a little bit more expertise in terms of more stricter standards that the bike parking can be built to. We've had conversations before in the history of the commission when I've been chair about citywide bike rack standards for racks that are purchased and installed by the city. And I think this would look pretty similar. I have an example that I just need a second to pull up, but there's a research group, a think tank that put together like a model legislation that could be adopted. And give me just a second to pull it up. Okay. So what I'd like to get to today during our meeting is I would love to with the commission's approval, I would love to send a recommendation to planning and zoning for more detailed bike parking standards, potentially based on the ones that I've found here. I've got right here, this is the full text. This is, let's see, the fact sheet. Okay, so the model bicycle parking ordinance that they've drafted, I have the full text of it right here, but the summary is that it provides specifications for bike parking that is built at commercial and multifamily developments. There's several different aspects of this, though. This also their model bike parking ordinance also requires or includes requirements for large public events, which I thought was interesting, given that we've started talking about providing valet parking at public events. This even mentions monitored bike parking, which I thought was interesting. There's this section that requires, that kind of mirrors what we already have, which is that, or I guess this is for parking facilities, which is specifically like parking garages. That could be included as well. The part that I thought was most relevant, that was maybe most important for us to comment on at this point, is the actual standards for the parking itself, for the racks itself. Let me find the section that's right here. Yeah, bicycle parking requirements for new development and major renovations. They have definitions for bicycle parking space, for bike locker, for bike rack, for in-street parking, for long-term parking. This is just way more detailed than what's in the code currently, which I will also pull up. There's another section in here that has requirements for the number of spaces, which does mirror what we currently have in the draft zoning regulations, which I have right here. Apologies, I didn't have these pulled up earlier. Like I said, I had to come right from a meeting for work, but right here. Okay, so here's what we currently have in the draft regulations. Bicycle parking shall be provided within a lot or building site as set forth in this table. Single family and two family dwellings don't have requirements. For a multifamily dwelling, one bicycle parking space, which is defined, I think, later on, shall be provided for every 10 dwelling units. Developments greater than 10 units must provide sheltered spaces. So effectively, in any development of any reasonable size has to provide sheltered spaces. So I think this is a good start. Obviously, shelter is better than no shelter. One of my concerns, though, is that as the regulations are currently written, this would allow developments to put in bike racks that are not as practical, that are not as secure, and that are not very accessible, whether it's because they're out of the way or because they don't serve, for example, heavier bikes, e-bikes. We could include, there could be included, for example, a requirement to have outlets for e-bike charging. There could be required, additional space between racks in order to accommodate wider bicycles like cargo bikes that people are actually going to be using for transportation. And a lot of that is in this this sample code that we could take from. So I can dig into the details here. We could also, if we wanted to submit a recommendation to P&Z, we could say we recommend using this verbatim, or we could say we recommend using this, but only these sections, or stuff like that. So first, what's the general reaction? What do you all think about commenting on this to P&Z about having more detailed bike parking standards? Don't all jump at once. Questions, comments?
I was just gonna say, is there like specific needs we want to improve here, or are you just saying like a conversation with them about possible improvements?
So there's things about this. This is the public draft of the Norwalk zoning regulations that will be voted on soon by P&Z. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not experienced at writing zoning codes, but I would add details about, for example, that the racks need to have at least two places to lock a bike to. So like the simplest version of that is the U-lock, right? As opposed to a schoolyard style rack, which we have a lot of around Norwalk, that only allows you to lock the front wheel. It's not as secure. So I want to have a stipulation like that, and maybe not just a requirement for certain things, but also a suggested style, like the U rack, which is what we settled on a couple of years ago and as our citywide bike rack standard. Like I mentioned, I would like to see details, at the very least suggestions, if not requirements, for e-bike charging, for minimum spacing between racks to fit, like I said, larger bikes like cargo bikes. Also, a requirement that at least some of the bike parking is not hanging parking. I've seen some apartments. You're muted, Emily, if you're trying to talk.
No, I don't want to interrupt, but keep going.
I've seen some housing developments. I'm not sure I've seen one in Norwalk, but certainly in other places, also in offices, where all of the bike parking is to hang your bike on the wall, which is quite space efficient if you have a bike that is narrow and lightweight that you can lift, but not everybody has a bike that they can lift, such as an e-bike, right? A typical e-bike can be 50, 60 pounds. So ensuring that at least some of the bike parking accommodates bikes that can't necessarily be hung on the wall. Those are the things that are kind of at the top of my mind.
And these are more geared towards like developers creating bike parking rather than
Exactly.
the city, like, because you mentioned like U-lock standards, but I don't think any of our new aesthetically pleasing bike parking stations have that requirement by TMP. So I'm a little confused, but I think, yeah, I'm in agreement that like this is a good conversation to have with P&Z before they put this into effect.
Yeah, so to clarify, in the zoning code would apply to developments, whether that's developments by the city or by the private sector. But we're talking about, in particular right here, what we're looking at is requirements just for multifamily dwellings. And the only time that the city would be building a multifamily dwelling is if it's the housing authority that's building it, right?
Got it. Yeah,
this isn't for like street level bike parking. This is for parking at an apartment building.
This is for any new developers coming in that want to build apartment buildings. They will have to refer to this as guidance.
They'll be required to follow this to the letter.
Okay, yeah.
Unless it says
I'm
suggested.
To improve this. I think this can be improved.
Cool. Other thoughts from commissioners?
Tanner, hi everyone.
Christine, hi.
Yeah, hi. So I'm keeping in mind, like you said, it wouldn't just be for bikes, kind of modal, like scooters, and there's, more people are using these other means like electric bikes and fold up bikes, just that make sure we make those accessible parking for them.
Yeah, I think typically to use your examples, a folding bike, the whole draw of the folding bike is to be able to store it in your apartment. I mean, case in point right here, sitting behind me, I have a folding bike. And it sits in your apartment. As far as scooters, I think a lot of electric scooters also can be more easily stored in your apartment than a bicycle, than a normal bicycle. Also, e-scooters, as far as I know, are much harder to lock securely because they don't have a frame in the same way that a bike has a frame. So I'm not as worried about standards for either folding bikes or e-scooters, but I think e-bikes definitely should be, like I described, provided for.
We have a question from a caller in.
Oh, cool. Is it in the Q&A or is it a hand up?
It's a hand up from an attendee who's calling in from 1323.
Yeah, I'm not sure who the 323 number is, but since you have your hand up, do you mind introducing yourself?
or maybe not.
They might still be trying to unmute themselves. Okay, we'll come back to you at the end of the meeting. We'll have another public comment phase if there's time. Perhaps the hand's just up by accident, but whoever you are, 323 number, we're glad you're here. Okay, so Delene, I know that when we vote on the minutes that I'm not allowed to make the motion. Am I allowed to make a motion here?
Generally, it should be somebody else, yeah.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion that that I or somebody else draft and send a letter to P&Z asking them to improve the bicycle parking standards in the zoning code, including a reference to this model ordinance for them to use as guidance, and including a list of the priorities that I outlined. Anybody want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to write that letter to P&Z.
I'll second.
Great. Emily, in particular, are you motioning that you'll write the letter? Because it probably needs to go in before we meet again.
Right. No, I would ask for help, but I'm happy to write it. Yeah.
Okay. Christine, you're still happy to second that? Alrighty. All in favor? Awesome. That's 5 of us, and that's all 5 commissioners that we have. Okay, Emily, so you're on the hook for writing this letter, and I'm happy to help you out.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Let's move on to our next agenda item, which I believe is from Greg. Greg, you ready to tell us about... Actually, I did say earlier that I was going to give a quick overview of the agenda, and I forgot to do that. So I'll just give a quick summary. I've got it right here. I'll just put it up on the screen so that we can all see, and then I'll turn the time over to Greg. But we talked about bike parking standards. Greg's going to talk to us about the recreational trails grant. We've got an update about educational materials. I think, Emily, did that come from you?
Yes, but I don't think we have enough to talk about today because we have not met with Brianna yet. So I can give an update on what we've done, but it'll be all of like a minute.
Okay, good to know. I'll keep it on the agenda though for you to do that. Continue discussion about open streets from Christine, budget review and expenditures, and then approving the meeting minutes. So Greg, go ahead.
Thanks, Tanner. So just to give everybody a quick background, you know, the Fairfield County Bike Partnership, which is a collection of cities along the I-95 corridor, which Tanner and I have, you know, kind of been on those meetings, and it's representative, you know, all those coastal city towns along 95, made up of municipal employees and also advocacy groups as well. You know, and basically looking to create an off street trail or bike network along the East Coast Greenway, you know, along running east-west along all those cities. So earlier this year, I should say, Greenwich, in cooperation with Stanford, put in for a recreational trails grant for a feasibility study for a multi-use path in between Old Greenwich and Stanford, you know, to run through there. It was just a feasibility study with planning involved just to see how that would kind of work. There was no formal design or anything as part of that, but they were awarded a grant for that. And then, so basically, Tanner had approached us about potentially going in for a grant this year for the recreational trails grant, which is, you know, which is put out by DEEP. And that's part of the state's recreational trails program grant for feasibility of new recreational trails. So we looked at it internally on the city side, and, you know, it's certainly something that, you know, we would, you know, like to go after, but, you know, with the amount going on right now within TMP right now, you know, we had spoken to Tanner about maybe the Bike Walk Commission kind of taking on most of the lift of the application for the trails grant, and kind of heading that going into the springtime, which last year it closed on March 1st. So, you know, that could be that, announcement could be coming anytime, over the next new year in January. So we wanted to kind of work with you guys and, kind of see if you can create a working group with the commission and, kind of put together that grant application. Now, as part of this, we would need to coordinate some way with Darien. Seeing how the, Greenwich and Stanford, we need that middle piece. So, Tanner had spoken to us about, potentially working with Darien to kind of create that connection, between Stanford and us. So we want to see, kind of put this on the Bike Commission's radar and see if, the commission would be willing to, take this on. Obviously this, TMP would certainly help where necessary, and assist with the completion of the application wherever, you all need assistance. Obviously this is last year's, application, but not sure it could change from year to year what specifically asked, but for the most part, I think this is basically what the proposed application would be. So when they put in last year, Stanford and Greenwich, they didn't have a specific route in mind per se. That was going to be based on, public meetings and kind of move forward from there. But, once we get kind of in the nitty gritty of the application, we can kind of figure out from there. But wanted to get everybody's sense of if, a working group, comprised of the members on the Bike Walk Commission would want to take this on and see if, to handle the majority of the application as well as the submittal as well.
Thanks, Craig. Yeah, this is, because I haven't introduced it, this is the application from last year. This is the same application that Greenwich and Stanford filled out. So I imagine that it'll be pretty similar, if not the same. Obviously, it could change. It looks like a fair amount of work, some of which I'm not sure anybody on the Bike Walk Commission has done before. So just at first blush, I think that I'm not sure if we could commit to doing this or not, but I'm sure interested in doing a little bit more work to figure out how feasible it is. For example, I'm sure that we could approach Greenwich and Stanford. Maybe they would share their application with us so we can get a sense of, how much material they had to produce, whether they had to write reports. For example, I noticed some reference to like a maintenance plan, but I'm not sure if that's relevant here because it would just be a study for feasibility and planning. But like I'd have to figure out, which of these things are optional, which are not optional, which ones we would need to and not need to include, and whether we have enough bandwidth and expertise on the commission. Is there anybody else on the commission, though, that is particularly excited about this or would be interested in helping to drive it? Emily? And Nick and Manny, great. And Christine, great. I think then that's a yes then, Greg, from the commission.
Okay.
Every commissioner in attendance is interested in participating. So I think that at the very least, we'll take it and try and figure out pretty quickly how much work it would be and whether the commission can do that work.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the application hasn't been, put out yet, but I want to, if you could take this month at least to kind of review the existing and just kind of everybody, divide it into sections and see how it can be programmed out and start thinking about it. A major portion of this, is an educational portion as well. Which has to, there's, which is, the arm of the, Bike Walk Commission is education. So that's certainly something that, we want you to start thinking about how it could be incorporated into this. And then also if you need any assistance from us, from TMP, we would just need enough time to do our portion based on whatever asks you have. I know we kind of did that for the bicycle friendly communities application, but we really, our workload is very heavy right now. Even with a full staff right now, it's still very heavy. So we would just need the time in advance to fill this out, to assist in any way that you guys need.
Yeah. I think for that reason, I'm not the right person to drive this. I'm definitely excited about it. and I'm the one that's been in the most contact with the the rest of the partnership that Greg mentioned, the people from Greenwich and Stamford, et cetera. But I think that there are other people on the commission that could do a better job of staying organized and making sure that everything gets done with plenty of lead time. That's not one of my strong suits, but I think that other people on the commission can probably do that well. My next question is there any member of the commission that has filled out a grant application like this before, whether it's for a public grant or an academic grant or something like that? Anybody?
I mean, I have, but I can't, I wish I could see this document a little bit better. I wish I had it ahead of time before I comment, but I can't really get a full understanding of the amount of work here. And also, when is the deadline for this?
So the deadline hasn't even been published yet. The deadline last year was in March.
Okay.
Can you see this page, Christine?
Yes,
This is
I can look up the Deep website. I mean, I can look
Yeah.
for this if
I
it's
can-
And
there.
I can send you these exact links, but what I'm pointing out here is that the 2024 grant round, it says
Yeah.
coming soon, request for proposals coming soon, but
Yep.
it hasn't yet been published,
Okay.
so we don't know when the
So-
due date is.
So Greenwich got this grant last year? Is that what you said, Greg?
Yeah, so here's
Yes.
here's a news article about it. It was
I see.
announced back in May of this year. They got, let's see, $270,000, and I think that it's an 80-20 match. So Greenwich and Stamford agreed to provide the other 20%. I think it was some split between the two. Each provided about 10%, and then the state provided 80%.
Okay, and I may have missed this, but what would be the area or where would this be for?
So this would be to evaluate the feasibility and the potential route for a trail that would connect through from the Stamford city line through Darien and through Norwalk to the
So
Westport.
this is the work that we were considering before, right? We had somebody the guy from Stanford speak with us. Is this?
Yeah, Jerry Silver.
Jerry, thank you.
Yes, Jerry is kind of leading this coalition.
So Jerry would be helping with, well, he could help with our application?
So Jerry was involved, if I'm not mistaken, in the application that Greenwich and Stamford filled out. Greenwich ultimately was the one that submitted it.
Mhm.
And there were at least one city employee in Greenwich and I think a couple in Stamford. The first selectman in Greenwich has been a big proponent of this as well. So Greenwich was the one driving it, the city of Greenwich, but advocates in both Stamford and Greenwich have been helping a lot too. That's where Jerry falls. But I think that Jerry did help out with the application to some degree. So whether it's Jerry or somebody else, I would definitely be reaching out to people who worked on the application in Greenwich, in Stamford, and they could probably advise us to some degree. Maybe they could share their completed application with us so we can get a sense of the detail, the level of detail they went into to answer the questions. Greg, you said that there's a chance that maybe they hired external help as well to help fill out the application.
They may have had a consultant that helped fill out the application for them. But I can't confirm that.
Yeah, so that's something we would need to look into. Basically, what I'm volunteering to do is I'm volunteering to be the networker to connect all the different people, right? If we need to find somebody in Greenwich that worked on the application, if we need to find somebody in Stamford that did so, one of the things I've already started working on is trying to find somebody in Darien that could champion this within the town of Darien. I think that our application probably won't be competitive unless we can get the city of Darien or the town of Darien to sign on to it to some degree. I don't know how much they would need to or be able to help with the application. But like in Greenwich and Stamford, ultimately it was the city of Greenwich that drove it. They were the ones with their name on the application, and people from Stamford helped out. But we need to find somebody in Darien, and I've been networking a little bit. I connected with a woman who used to be the first select woman in Darien, Yvonne Klein. Had a good conversation with her. Her recommendation was that we should just show up at an RTM meeting or email the RTM, the representative town meeting, which is kind of like their common council, and try and get on the agenda and just pitch the project and say, is there anybody here that would like to help us or support the project? So I haven't done that yet because I wanted to make sure that TMP was on board, but it sounds like if at the very least, if the work of filling out the application can be offloaded to the commission to a decent degree, the TMP otherwise, that this fits into your strategy and that you'd like to see work in this direction go forward. So with that said, I don't think we need to vote on anything here. But I would, given that I volunteered to do like the networking part of this and connect with all the right people, is there somebody who feels like they are up to the organizational task of, keeping all the pieces moving on this project, essentially to be a project manager? You don't necessarily need to be the one who reads and writes the entire application, but the one who coordinates that kind of work. Does anybody feel like they're up to that?
Is this something that NRVT could get involved in, or it's separate from them?
We would certainly welcome their support. I think that they are relevant in that a connection between the proposed trail or the trail that we'd be evaluating the feasibility for and the NRVT would be critical. So yeah, if we have, you know what? I bet the NRVT has applied for grants before. I'm sure they have. I know they have.
Yeah. So they have definitely a grant writer, Andrea Gardner, who does this sort of
She's an
stuff.
employee, right? Like
Right. She's the executive director right now.
Yeah, so I think that we should definitely tap them for advice and potentially for help. But I think the person who's managing the project, as it were, making sure that this application gets across the line should be one of us.
Okay, I volunteer as tribute.
You do?
I do, but I haven't personally written a grant, so I don't know if I will be of as much help as needed, but I'm happy to support in any way I can.
Gotcha. Are you mostly? I'm looking for somebody who can bother other people on a regular basis and make sure that we're falling behind.
That's me. I'll do that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Emily. Then will you take? Let's see. I'm going to take an action item to. To figure out what the next step is for Darien, potentially to try and get on the RTM agenda and pitch this to somebody on the RTM. Emily, will you contact Andrea from the NRVT and either read through the application or have her read through the application or do it together and like come to kind of a first pass set of conclusions about how much work this would be and whether the commission is even capable of doing it?
Definitely. And I was able to grab the URL of the past thing. So if there's anything else you can send me, or we can get from Darien or Greenwich, I'll meet with Andrea and do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna, after the meeting, I'm gonna send out the links to the grant page. Whoops. This one and this one. And I'll throw in this one too, the news article. Can't type today. And then I'm going to contact people in Stamford and Greenwich and see to what extent they could advise and or share their application with us. Okay. Any other comments on that? Any other action items I forgot, or people who have a particular role they want to play? Alrighty, Greg, thanks for bringing that up, for putting it on the agenda, and for expressing TMP's support for this work.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for taking this on. And like I said, TMP will be happy to assist. Just give us enough time to assist you guys in any way. And we'll be on the lookout as well when the the official announcement is made for for the deadline. Usually it could be anywhere 45, 60 days, for the application. So that's why we're getting it out there now to you all, just to give everybody a heads up. You could start thinking and looking at the application, just kind of get everything moving ahead of time before it actually is released.
Great. All right, let's move on to the next agenda item. That is Bike and Ped Infrastructure Education Materials Update. Emily, you said you have just a quick update?
Yeah, very quick. So we formed our educational subcommittee. It includes myself, Christine, Manny, Jalea, and then we connected with this lovely woman from she's an injury prevention coordinator from the Trauma Service and Department of Surgery at Norwalk Hospital,
Great.
Brianna Iorfino. Excuse me if I butchered the last name, but we are trying to meet up for a quick chat about bike safety, pedestrian safety, and concussion education with our team. So I'm hoping to get some more information out of that, and that's going to hopefully happen before the holidays, if not next year. But yeah, we're making moves. We're making a little progress.
Awesome.
And if I could just jump in real quick, and Emily, you know, TMP is happy to assist as well. If, you know, once you have that, you know, whatever, you know, your first educational posting you're doing, you know, feel free to send it over to us, and then we'll provide comments to you as well. Just so everything's in alignment. You know, we're all aligned together before posting it on whatever website or you know, whatever we plan on doing. And one other reason why I put this on there as well is you know, how we're gonna, you know, also talk about how we're gonna promote this as well, just beyond the actual education portion, but ways we're gonna promote it other than just social media, you know, pamphlets, you know, any other education materials to hand out during events, and also how this kind of fits into the strategic plan. I don't know, Tanner, if you have any update on the strategic plan, or if you plan on doing that in 2024 at all. I know we had talked about it a little bit this year, but I don't know if you have any updates on that or plan on doing anything more in 2024 with the strategic plan.
I'd love to revisit it. I brought it up a while ago, but I think it was the 2023 strategic plan. I drafted it, and I brought it to a meeting. I think I got some feedback on it, and then I asked somebody to set up a kind of a breakout meeting to work on it, and that ball never got picked up. So I'm still interested in doing it. I think that if we're going to do it, we should do it in a meeting that's not one of our normal meetings, because
No, I agree. I just want to make sure it's on everybody's radar, because that is something that the commission needs to do. And, you know, especially it's helpful, you know, when you have a strategic plan, and it certainly helps, you know, from outside, you know, common council members and members of the community, when we have a strategic plan and they see that yearly being updated, and seeing what kind of metrics you have, you know, that you did or didn't achieve this year and what you aim to do next year. So it's just something just to keep in your minds going into 24, you know, especially from the educational portion as well. How do you look to advocate that going forward with the strategic plan?
So I added an item for the end of this meeting, if we get to it, to make a plan to make a plan. Potentially even do a little bit of brainstorming if there's time. But Emily, do you have any other items to update?
That's it for updates right now. But Greg, would you be the point of contact if we do have materials that we're ready to share with you, that sort of thing?
Yeah, send them my way, and then this way TMP, we can just review them, and you know, if we have any content to add, or you know, we also have some more in-depth photos as well. We had some aerial shots that were taken of the green pavement, for instance. You know, they're crystal clear, so we can certainly add those in. You know, any help that we can be. So yeah, just send it our way when you guys are done. We can review it, and we'll get you any comments back.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is, where did I put the agenda? I just had it. Open street discussion. Christine.
Yeah, so I apologize because we talked the last meeting and people gave me their names who were interested in it, and I was going to contact you and I didn't, but we still have time. I just want to keep this on the agenda. I was kind of, I'd like to pick a date for this in May for the bike month. So I picked, it's a Saturday, May 18th, and it's kind of between Memorial Day and another event that was in at the Marvin Walk, which was last year, May 6th, or the year before. So anyway, I think I just want to start to gain a calendar. I know there's a lot of steps that we have to have in place, like the meeting with the traffic authority and with Robert Stowers and there was another group, the police. So I'd like to start to develop a calendar to have these meetings. The traffic authority meetings are the third Monday of the month. The January 1 falls on MLK Day. The February 19th one falls on President's Day. So I'm not familiar with that commit group when those meetings are rescheduled for. I don't know if Greg knows.
So, yeah, so Christine, those would just be rescheduled the week after the calendar. So that will come out either later this month or first of right after the first of the year, the schedule, but they'll still have January, February meetings. They'll just be a week later.
Okay, so, and I think if we're in there by February, because I was looking at the minutes and the agendas for those prior meetings, and some of the organizations like the Memorial Day Parade and the, there's like a run or the boat show, they're on the calendar early on, getting their event listed and approved early on. So we were pretty late to the game last year. And so to avoid that, so that's at 4 o'clock. I know I can attend the meeting. I think Tanner attended that
So
meeting.
Christine,
last year.
I think we're way ahead of ourselves here. In order to attend the traffic authority meeting, I think that we need to have already filled out the special event permit application, which means that we need a site plan, we need an event plan. In order to get that, I think that we need to do that planning work in tandem
Yeah.
with people like TMP and Rec and Parks. The
Yeah.
traffic authority meeting is a formality at the very end of the process.
No, I understand. I'm just throwing it all out there about the importance of having, and just having the dates that when we can potentially get on their calendar, but after we have those meetings, yeah. So,
Yeah, we can certainly work backwards from it. But the
Yeah.
thing that we need to do next is we need to have a meeting with Robert Stowers. We need to start
yes,
the
I
conversation with
agree.
Rec and Parks.
That's my intention. So, I'm happy to just do that, Tanner.
Okay,
meet with
I
Robert.
can't remember what we discussed in the meeting last month, and what I discussed offline, but I had a conversation with Ben. Ben, are you able to unmute? I see that you're here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm here.
Did you take some specific action item to contact Rec and Parks? Reason that I bring up
I
Ben is
haven't
because last year,
yet.
when we were working on the open street, Ben and I were the ones kind of working most closely with Robert and with the rest of the people at Rec and Parks.
Yep, so I'd like to be at that meeting, and I was not aware of an offline conversation, because the way we left it here, Ben had wanted to commit to this work, Emily committed, and I think Nick, and I think maybe Manuel, so we don't all have to meet with Robert Stowers, but I would like to be part of that meeting, because for some reason I wasn't last year, and I would
Well,
like to.
I would love for you to be there, Christine. One of you two, I don't care who it is, but one of you two needs to reach out to him. And schedule
Yeah,
a
Ben, I can put you on, I can copy you on that. We can meet with him together if you're open to that.
Sure thing.
Are you available in the daytime? I'm available after 2:30.
Yeah, maybe you and I could catch up after and we could figure out a specific time that works well.
Sounds good. You can
There's
put in the
specific
chat
days of the
maybe.
week that are easier for me than others.
Yep, same here. So maybe if you can email me your contact number, I can give you a call.
Yeah,
please.
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. That's all I have, Tanner. Thanks.
Great. Okay, next on the agenda is looking at the wrong agenda. The budget. So, Greg, did you put this on there or did I put this on there?
I did, yeah. So I know last meeting we were going to look at, I usually put this on the agenda every meeting because I'm not waiting till June anymore to spend money. Those days are done. So I had all the numbers pulled, what we have so far, what we have spent, what's still left. So up to date, so you have an $8,000 budget for the year, beginning on July
Okay.
1. And so far you spent about half of it. So we still have $4,174 left.
Can you itemize that really quick? There haven't been that many items, and I'd love to keep track of it on my end as well.
Yeah, so Cycle Dynamics, we bought the flashing lights. That was $2,600 right there.
2,600. Okay.
We have the meeting minutes. We have three separate charges for meeting minutes.
And that comes out to about 2,000 a year, right?
Right around there, yeah, for the 12-month, yeah.
Gotcha. Have we spent the money yet for the event bike racks? I know that we
Yes, we have. Yep.
gotcha. Have they been shipped? Do we know? Like, has
They
the
have
order-
been shipped. They should be arriving this week at some time.
Oh, awesome. Okay, great.
Yep.
And that was around 1,000, right?
That was $640.
640.
Yes.
Oh, we got more of a discount than I thought. Good work, Nick, on the event racks. Okay, so if you count the money allocated for note taking by Deline for the rest of the year, I've got a total of 5,240. That's 2,000 plus 2,600 for the lights. Those are all tail lights, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, those were that was the order that was put in back in July. Yes.
Yeah. Reason I bring that up is because I think that we should spend part of our budget getting headlights to match the tail lights.
No, they were headlights. We need taillights.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Why the Cycle Dynamics in Westport, why we want to purchase from Smart Cycles?
You can ask Judd because Judd was the one that put the quote together.
I'm
I think
just,
I think they had a cheaper quote, Christine, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
mean, but I know, but okay, but in the future, Alex works pretty closely with me, especially and us, so I think we would have met that in the future. It'd be nice to support Norwalk.
Okay, Christine, would you like to take an action item to talk to Alex about a headlights quote?
Yeah, do they have to match? Yeah, I will. Do
They
they
don't have to be the same brand. I
So-
think if they could charge the same way, that would be nice. I'm pretty sure it's a micro USB charger.
But
Ben, do you
does
recall?
Greg need 3 quotes, right?
I think 2, unless it passes
If
some.
it's under $5,000, we can take 2 quotes.
2 quotes, so the Cycle Dynamics and the Smart Cycles for headlights. Okay, I'll talk to Judd. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Christine.
Sorry, I interrupted.
No, thanks. That was relevant. Okay, so we've spent 5,240, or rather allocated 5,240, which leaves about 2,700 for other things. Did we not also have a swag order that we put in right after the beginning of the fiscal year, or that was the taillights? That was the
That-
taillights.
Yeah, that was the taillights. And then we had swag items that we ordered for t-shirts right before the end of the last fiscal year.
That's right. Gotcha. So on my headlights are the big thing on my mind that I'm hoping that we can use some of the rest of our budget for. Are there any other big things that stand out that are on people's minds?
If you don't mind if I chime in real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I know buying swag materials and lights, that's all good stuff, but I just don't want to get into a habit of just buying more and more stuff that sits in a closet that, we lose track of, and then we just keep buying more and more of every single year. Not to say we don't need to replenish it, but, as we're doing this education proponent, saving the money for educational materials, maybe, what if having an educational speaker or something, for an event, or, being more of a presence during, bike week or bike to work week or bike to work day, having more presence in other city functions as well. And, spending a little bit of, money towards those events and, getting a little more, name and recognition out there for the Bike Walk Commission could certainly be helpful as well. Just to throw some ideas out there.
So to translate those into slightly more concrete ideas, you mentioned a speaker. In the past, we've done a similar thing, which we did that film screening, and that cost a little bit of money to license the film. I think it was around 500. So we could do another film screening, for example.
Well, the speaker is nice because if, Emily and the team putting together the educational components can, kind of piggyback off that and have a guest speaker actually come and talk to the public, and, also maybe the representative from the hospital can also speak, during that session as well. Just something to put out there.
Greg, it sounds like maybe we should put you on the education subcommittee. Are you interested?
No, it's just something that, the 4 E's, you guys are that arm. for
Yeah.
Education.
I think that's a great idea. A speaker around concussions maybe, or something like that. I think it's a
Well,
great,
you know, right, and it could be bike safety, you know, and pedestrian safety, and then on top of that, you know, have, you know, the representative from Norwalk Hospital as well there to speak. You know, just.
And they get a little honorarium. It's not like a speaker fee, but something like just an acknowledgement, like $100, but to keep that going and have a speaker series, I love that.
Right, and I know you guys done, you know, you did it at the library, so, you know, the space itself is not a cost, but, you know, you can kind of promote, you know, use the funds to promote and also to, you know, you can hand out materials and, you know, buy additional ones as well, but also, you know, kind of create more programming and make it more of an event other than just kind of show up and just, you know, watch something. So just something to put in your mind just to help with that. You know, and Tanner, you know, like I said before, the educational arm, you know, we're putting in all these bike facilities across the city that people aren't familiar with. And I know you all saw, you know, comments on Facebook and saying, what do I need to do as a driver? What do I need to do as a pedestrian? What do I need to do as a cyclist? So we're just trying to, you know, utilize the Bike Walk Commission to really assist the public in getting that educational platform out there and people on how to use these, you know, how to use these
Greg,
new
you brought
facilities
this up
they're not
before.
familiar
We
with.
formed an education subcommittee to do this.
No, I get that, but I'm just trying to move it forward. That's all.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
So Greg, you put this on the agenda. You have a specific outcome that you're looking for in the meeting?
No, I keep putting it on the agenda every month just to make sure that the money is being spent and we're not waiting till May to decide what we're spending money on. So that's why I put it on the agenda.
Well, to
make sure the
address
budget's being
education
spent.
piece, if we're going to spend money on education, I think we need a more concrete proposal from the education committee about what we're going to spend it on, whether we're going to spend it on literature like flyers, whether they have a speaker that's queued up, and the approximate speaking fee, or if we have a venue fee for a venue. That's all the kind of stuff that would need to come, that we would need more details on, I think. One thing that I think that we could estimate right now is potentially how much we would like to allocate to headlights. Again, I feel strongly that if we're giving out taillights, we should be giving out headlights as well. And I believe we got 100 taillights. So I think it would make sense to get 100 headlights as well, but that could, depending on the quote that we get, 100 headlights may cost as much as most of the rest of our budget that we have. So perhaps we decide to do less, but that depends on how much we want to reserve for things like a speaker or licensing a film. Are there other major things that we would consider setting aside budget for at this point? There's two more that come to my mind. One is that in past years' budgets, we've set aside money for promotional materials and event materials for grand opening celebration for the NRVT, which we have punted on multiple times because that little section by Route 123 is opening soon. Greg, I don't know if you have an update. I know that's not on the agenda, but it's not yet open, right?
No, it's not yet open, no, but it will be soon.
It should be by the spring, certainly, which is when we've targeted
Oh, yeah, no.
to have a celebration before. So conceivably, we could do that celebration again. I brought this up 1 or 2 meetings ago, and if I recall, your response was that TMP was just focused on getting it done. But since we've made plans before to do the celebration, I think that once we actually can celebrate it, once the thing we're celebrating is done, that we should. And I don't know if we need to allocate, I think in past years we allocated 1,500 to that. I don't know if we need to do that again, but it depends on the event plans. But in order to know that, we have to know what the event plans are and whether we're even going to do one. So that's one thing that's on my mind. The other thing is that in past years, we've talked about allocating budget to send a member of the commission to the National Bike Summit in DC that's put on by the League of American Cyclists. I'm looking right now at the budget notes that I made for last year's budget, and we allocated money specifically for Emily to go. I know Emily had to drop at 7. She texted me. So I'm not sure if she's available to go again, but that's another item. I think that would unlock potentially a lot of like connections that we could make with other people doing the same kind of work in other cities, and also we could learn a lot of best practices by going to sessions at the conference, potentially on education, potentially on other topics that we want to improve upon in Norwalk. So that, last year we allocated $555. I think that was the cost of an in-person ticket to the summit for the entire thing. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think I included any sort of transportation or housing. So that's what is at the top of my mind. Anybody have thoughts about either of those things or other things that they feel like we should consider spending money on this budget cycle, this fiscal year?
I have an idea.
Yeah, go ahead.
In the spirit of trying to address some of the like recent things that have been built that some people find confusing, like the sharrows or the green paint, maybe there's like an ad buy that we could do where we have like materials that go out on like Facebook or whatever that kind of give like a little explanation as to like what they're there for and like how they work. Obviously we could do that with our social media presence as well. But if we put a little bit of money behind it, we get like a whole bunch more reach.
I think, so I just want to be cognizant that we're the Bike Walk Commission, like sometimes we forget because we're in cyclist enthusiastics here, but you know, the pedestrian piece of this is important.
How do you suggest that we translate that into our budget, Christine?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm putting it out to the group, but the last time we did mention about safety vests for particularly the elderly or people who are disabled, or homeless people, making sure they're kind of lit. Because I know all of us are driving out there, and we often see people who are dressed in black, and they're, you know, in at dawn or dusk, and it's scary, the amount of people out there. And I know, Tanner, your philosophy, I appreciate your, you know, your perspective on that last time, but I think we did concede that we would spend money on safety vests, didn't we?
I don't remember exactly what we conceded. I remember, I think, agreeing to support safety vests if we didn't have something that we felt like we could spend the money on that would be more impactful.
Yeah. Okay, well, I do like I like this whole education piece, so I'm not sure about that, but yeah.
Yeah, to acknowledge what Ben said, Ben's kind of pointing out at a high level that if we want to spend money on education, we could do it by paying explicitly for promotion, whether that's digital advertisements or other sorts of advertisements, as opposed to literature, right? Another thing that we've talked about spending money on education-wise is printed materials that we could give out.
Yeah, those are not that expensive. We have those.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Most of the issue with the print materials is figuring out exactly what we want to print, right? Getting content, designing the content.
Well, and getting them to the kids maybe in their backpacks, stuff like that too, at school.
Yeah, a distribution
education,
plan as well.
pedestrian, or the Safe to Routes, you know, program.
Yeah, those are the kind of details though that I hope that the education subcommittee comes up with.
Yeah, and so Tanner, I meant to bring this up, and with the tourism branch in Norwalk, I'm not sure we're utilizing them like we really could be. Right now, they have that plan, the pedestrian bike plan, it's quite dated at this point. They have the walk maps on their website, and
The
they
Norwalk
also,
maps?
yeah, the tourist, and they also have a sponsorship program. I wonder if we should pay to be like a sponsor for their events, and then our logo is out there. I don't know, is that a breach of ethics with the city, or does that have to be like profit companies to sponsor? It's on their website, the tourism website, all of those things.
I think putting stuff related to biking and walking, even if it's the commission's logo or name, I don't see that would be a conflict of interest or a breach of ethics. I think that the bigger question is like, what sort of content would we want to put there?
Well, we would be a sponsor for their events, like Winter Wonderland. They're soliciting sponsors.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I don't know that it makes sense for us to use our money that way, but
Okay.
it depends on how much it costs. If it's $50, maybe it does. But I guess that would probably fall under promotion in my mind. right? So broadly, the reason let me just share this because I've been putting together this little spreadsheet, and this way you can all at least see what I'm doing. So here's what we've allocated money for so far. Here's the total budget that we've started with. Here's the amount left over. If we put numbers in here, then this updates. So I mentioned headlights. We mentioned a speaker or a film screening. We mentioned literature for education. We mentioned promotion for education. Those are the categories that I have so far. What do you all think about filling in some numbers here to as an estimate? Oh, I also mentioned Bike Summit.
So Tanner, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place, but so this tourism, they're looking for sponsors right now. And to sponsor this, I think this is right up our alley, no pun intended. Sponsor the trick or treat trail down Washington Street. It would be it's a $500 website recognition, 10 by 10 space on trick or treat trail. Benefits. I'm going to send this to you. Do we have to decide tonight? I feel like
Is this for Halloween? Like for Halloween next year?
Yeah. Are we under the gun here? Like when do we, Greg, are we like have to decide this tonight?
No, you don't have to decide it tonight. I was just to keep on everyone's mind to, what we're spending, what the commission's spending its budget on, and to make sure that we're not just make sure we're not just buying stuff, and keeping it in a closet.
So, Greg, to be fair, the last time that we bought stuff, besides the lights that we haven't been able to give out because we don't have matching lights, were the t-shirts, and we have given out all the t-shirts.
I understand that, but I just want to make sure we just don't get in a habit of just buying swag stuff.
Well, with all due respect, that is up to the commission and not up to you.
I
To
understand.
characterize us as buying things that we then don't give out, I don't think is fair because
Tanner, I wasn't characterizing that. I was just looking over the budget just to make sure. I'm not characterizing that you only buy that. I'm just saying we have, there's other things, just putting out recommendations. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
All right, can I suggest we move on to and maybe we can get to the strategic plan at the end of this meeting?
Sure. This is related to the strategic plan. I was suggesting that maybe it's worth our time to just fill in some approximate numbers here so that different people who are going to work on these pieces know approximately what they're working with.
Yep, I would like to know for my conversation. Thank you.
For example, education literature, that's not something we're going to spend $2,500 on, right? It sounds like that might be, on the order of $300 or maybe $200, right? If we're printing out a bunch of flyers, right? So in the absence of more accurate estimate, I'm going to throw that down. Ben, go ahead.
For the promotion, I was at an NRVT board meeting last month and they were doing something similar, which is why this was on my mind. And I think they were spending on the order of like $1,500. I don't really know how much that buys you. But that's like a placeholder number we can start with.
Yeah, I don't think I would fill in 1,500 here unless the education commission comes back and their subcommittee comes back and says that that's like the thrust of their strategy.
Sure. Yeah. I'm sure that this is one of those things that you could spend as much money on as you wanted.
Yeah.
Depending on how big an impact you want to have. So again, I don't know how much that buys you.
As
NRVT has a much bigger ground to cover than we would. So I would assume
Yeah.
that we would probably spend less.
It's true. Also, the education subcommittee should look into this further, but if we do some sort of promotion, we can work together with the city's communications department, with Michelle. In fact, we will probably be required to, and they have a budget as well, and they could probably contribute.
Good idea.
But somebody will have to look into that further. In terms of a speaker or a film screening, I'm going to lump these two together because I'm not sure that we would do both. The film screening, like I said, I think was 500, and a speaker cost, I imagine, varies wildly depending on who the speaker is. But
how did you guys acquire the film screening and all that last year?
like, how did we find out? How did we decide to do it?
Yeah, or just kind of like how did you find that contact and connection to them?
Yeah, I think it came through Bike Walk CT. the state level advocacy group, because they were working with the filmmaker. The film was called The Street Project, and it was by a local Connecticut filmmaker. And I think they reached out to us because they were they had an initiative where they're trying to get as many groups in Connecticut to screen the film as possible. And actually, now that I think about it, I think it was 250 was the amount. So I'll fill that in as a dummy value for, you know, a speaker or a film screening in the absence of a better estimate. Like I said, my philosophy is that if we're giving out taillights, we should give out headlights, and we have 100 taillights. So if possible, I'd like to buy 100 headlights to give out to match. And I imagine that would be on the order of $10 to $15 as the unit cost, which would come out to 1,000 or 1,500. But that does equate to the majority of the rest of the budget. And I'm not the only commissioner, and we've talked about a lot of other ideas. But even if we fill in the rest, if we do, you know, 500 to promotion, the bike summit, I think Emily was the one excited about going. Is anybody else excited about going to the bike summit? Would anybody consider going if they were funded by the commission? Manny?
And also, Tanner, just keep in mind that bike summit, it's a hybrid, I believe. I believe there's virtual meetings, which is much less money, and also in person. So I
Yeah.
think it would be great. Maybe one member goes, you know, or depending on the money here. I don't, you know, I just want to put that out there. It's also virtual options.
Yeah.
And also our yearly membership for them. Is that on here? Our yearly
The membership, it's like $72 a month, or
Okay.
72 a year. But we haven't done it in the last few years, because I think every year I give somebody an action item to figure out how to pay for it, and nobody's done it.
No, that's not true. Greg renewed that this year. We
Oh,
have
Craig,
that-
did you?
Yeah, we needed to as part of our application.
Yeah, it was renewed. It was $75. It's on
Nice.
the part of the expenses.
And was that in the last fiscal year?
No, it was this one, so it was another
Oh.
$75. So
Okay, so we can add that in here.
Yep.
Awesome. Great. I'm glad to hear that we have that. Okay, so if we knock this down to 1,000, Christine, you're correct about the attending virtually versus in person. Personally, if I were going, I think that I would get way more out of it if I went in person than if I went virtually. And I think that's the discussion that we had last time. So
I'm just saying more people can go with one in person or two, but then it's just mentioning it. I'm not commenting on, you know, where this falls here.
Manny, if you were to go, would you find, say, $400 of additional value in going in person versus remotely?
Where is it this year?
Washington, D.C. I think it's every year in Washington.
I saw the website. I was just double checking. Potentially. Yeah.
The purpose of going in person too is to lobby directly with that's the big part of this conference, is to show up at the senator's office to lobby for Norwalk. Which is awesome to do.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I think it would be amazing if you went, and Emily. I think it would be fantastic.
I completely agree. If we send 2 people in person, that comes out to $1,100, which I think would be worth it. But it is, you know, another appreciable chunk of our budget here.
That's pretty high, I feel.
I mean, yeah.
Well, for 2 people, I think, you know, maybe, I don't know.
Okay, let's throw down money for one person here. I think it was $555. Oh, you know what? It's lower if you buy it in advance. I think it's like $350 if you do it in advance. Okay, so that, whoops. That comes out to 0. I put the last 385 down for high vis vests. So is everybody cool with that as like a guiding breakdown? It's not binding, but
I think
it's
it's
just
worth considering setting aside some budget for the Open Street event.
the Open Street event. So last year
Yeah.
when we did the Open Street event, all the costs were covered by Rec and Parks. I don't know if they'd be willing to do it again though, but I imagine that the costs involved are higher than we can pay for. It involves paying multiple police officers for several hours of work.
Yeah, I'm not saying that we pay for the whole thing. We should definitely try and like get as much support as we can. It's just if we want to do it bigger and better than last time, we should allocate more money than we did last time, which is more than zero, if I understand correctly.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I kind of agree with that, especially like if we want to do any advertising around that event, or if we want to bring not vendors but community members to have like like tents and stuff, and if we want a tent, right, or some sort of something like that.
I mean, I own a tent that I'm happy to to provide, and we've done that before when we've done events like this. Nick, are you
I think
thinking
we would
more-
need some more definition
Yeah,
before
we
we can
definitely need more
decide what we would be spending the money on. But I think there's like room to maybe, yeah, do that. Like I'll bet there's some good ideas we could come up with.
Yeah, I hesitate though to commit to, I guess we're not committing to anything, but if we were committing, I would hesitate to commit to spend bike walk budget on that though, until we know that Rec and Parks is going to ask us to put up some, because their budget's just a lot bigger than ours. And like they have a dedicated recreation budget, and I think that in the eyes of Rob's Towers, that this was like a recreation event that the city was putting on, and it would be again. So it would make all sorts of sense for it to come out of the recreation budget. But that's a conversation we need to have, certainly. And I'll put it on here as an idea so that we can keep it on our radar. Any other thoughts? All right, in the last few minutes, let's pick a date where we can do like a focus group meeting about the strategic plan for 2024, and then do the minutes for last month. So I'm gonna throw out there, I'm gonna check my calendar, but I'm gonna throw out just like next Monday, since we have meetings on Monday typically.
That works for me.
December 11th.
Just clarifying, this is for the strategic planning meeting, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll wait for Manny.
Tanner, would you be able to bring the one that's the current one? So we
Yeah.
can talk about it, so everyone has kind of an understanding, or send it out ahead of time, so like to kind of brief Manny and Nick, who may not be totally familiar with the document, and kind of give us some groundwork.
Yeah.
So far, I think I'm free that evening.
Great. Okay, so let's nail down tentatively. Would you all be okay with doing it at 6:30 instead of 6? I have a standing meeting at work that ends at 6 now. I'd love a little.
Works. Should we try to do it in person, or?
I would love to do it in person. Greg, do you know of any reason that we would be barred from meeting at City Hall if we're doing a special meeting like this?
I just don't know what the night schedule is from, night to night, if it's open or we would have to get confirmation, and that's also what room is open as well. Because there might be other meetings in those rooms.
And we also have to make sure we can do it hybrid, because then we have to be able to post it on YouTube.
I'll forget it then, right,
Yeah.
maybe. But do we also have to, like, does this have to be made public, this meeting? Is there a rule about public?
I think
Yeah.
if we're getting a quorum of the commissioners together, I think we do.
Yes, if it's 4 or over, yes, it's a quorum. So it has, if you can keep it to under 3, then you don't have to. But yeah, anything over 4, it's a quorum, and it has to be, minutes have to be taken.
I've got. I think this was from just now. We have a Q&A in the Q&A that says Zoom meeting on that date from JS. I'm not sure who JS is. And I'm not also sure exactly. Are you asking whether the meeting will be on Zoom? Because I think that there is a requirement that it be on Zoom. It's Dylan, it sounds like that's what you were saying, right? That it has to be hybrid.
Yes, they still want everything posted to YouTube, so if you could do live, but it has to be hybrid.
It looks like the Common Council has a meeting. Oh no, I got the date wrong. That would be the 11th. There's a meeting of the Commission on the Status of Women. That's the only thing that's on the city's meetings list, and that's at 7 p.m. I'm not sure if they do hybrid or remote. It's the only people I know who are regularly meeting hybrid is the Common Council. Does that sound right, Deline?
Well, everybody meets regularly on a monthly basis, but
No, I mean people who are doing hybrid, who are meeting at City Hall.
yeah, just Common Council.
Yeah, okay. Deline, would you be the right person, or Greg, would you be the right person to look into seeing if we could do a one-off meeting hybrid? Greg, you're muted.
Greg, you want to take that lead, or you want me to?
Greg, you're still muted. I still can't hear you, Greg. You're muted.
Sorry, my bad. So yeah, we'd have to submit through the mayor's office to create the Zoom meeting, put it on the city calendar, minimum 24 hours in advance. Put the agenda up, which I assume, Darlene, you would get a notification about the meeting. Make sure you're available as well. I mean, we might be able to, do our own minutes so we don't have to, take up your night. But yeah, everything would have to just, be in advance. So, next Monday might be kind of tight turnaround for something like that. So we may want a little bit more time because, to make sure we can set that up.
Well, after that, we get into the holidays. Like I'm leaving town the 19th, which would be the day after the 18th, which is the following week. I'd prefer to do it earlier rather than later. Would it be? I mean, all the steps that you just described would have to go through for a meeting on Zoom as well if it was a special meeting, correct?
No, it does. Yeah, of course.
Good. And
Tanner, is there a reason we have to have it in December?
I think it makes sense because we're planning for the year 2024. It'd be nice to have it nailed down when the year starts. Greg, would it be doable to do a Zoom meeting on that day?
So the Monday, the 11th?
Yeah.
I'll have to check. Then I'll have to, Darlene, I guess we can talk offline too, Darlene, and just see what availability looks like, and talk with the mayor's office as well to make sure that's doable.
Sure.
I mean, getting a room in City Hall would be ideal, but I'm just asking, is there any reason that we couldn't do a Zoom meeting on that date if nothing else?
Let's plan for a Zoom meeting at the minimum. Let's plan for that. Just because like Darlene said, there's not many meeting groups that are meeting in City Hall. So if there's only one meeting that night and it's a Zoom meeting, we may not have access to City Hall. And it may just be easier. And like Darlene said, we have to do a hybrid anyway. So we have to still set up the Zoom. So it might just be easier for all of us if we just meet by Zoom.
Yeah, I agree that it would be easier. I think it'd be more productive if we can get it in person. So if you could check at least and see if there's an avenue by which we can meet hybrid at City Hall. I recognize that if we meet in person, it has to be hybrid. But like the technology definitely exists for that. I don't know if I think the last time I went through this topic, the issue was that the only room that's set up for it in City Hall is the council chamber. And I don't know if there's a reason that we couldn't use the council chamber, but it would feel interesting to sit in the council chamber. We are a city commission.
Yeah, I also don't know if we need a representative from IT there as well, because I know in other public information meetings that we've had, there was somebody on staff that was managing the meeting. That had to be there in person running the hybrid meeting. So
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
certainly this is the first time we're
Greg
doing
and
it.
Greg and I can talk off on, I don't think Monday's gonna work for the council. I mean, because I think they have caucus that night.
Oh, got it.
But me and Greg can talk tomorrow.
Can
Yeah.
I just, Tanner, it seems complicated. What if can we dedicate our January meeting to do this work? That's
we
what
could, but I
Nancy
think
used to
we
do.
have recurring business of other business that comes up that I think we
Yeah,
gotta carve out time for.
I don't know. We used to do it like that. They would put it up and we would all look at it and kind of go over the steps and
You mean that we would do it during the regular January meeting?
yeah, no, yes, we would do it regularly. I can't remember what month, but we would do it during a meeting. Because it was so important and kind of everybody was involved in that.
Well,
Either
that's
that
what I'm
or-
supposed to do now. It's just that it would be a meeting that's not the first Monday of the month.
No, I hear
It's not
you,
regular
yeah.
meeting.
either that, or you would do a separate special meeting like you would
Like
in
a
this, but
subcommittee.
you would just plan it out in January.
Yeah. Like I said,
Dedicated
there's
just-
value in doing this. I don't even know if we're going to finish in one meeting.
We're not.
So then all the more reason I think we should start in December. So let's move forward with a Zoom meeting on Monday. Greg and Deline, if you find another room that is set up for hybrid that we could use, that would be great. But if not, then we'll do the Zoom. It sounds like council chamber's off the table, which is fine.
Sure.
Yeah, Darlene, we'll talk tomorrow, Darlene.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Alrighty. With that said, the remaining thing is to vote on the minutes. I'll entertain a motion or I'll entertain comments on the minutes, corrections. from last month.
Sorry, Tanner, could you just
Yeah.
send the current strategic plan to the commissioners so they kind of have a sense and an idea of what it is all about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great
Okay.
idea, and I made an action item for myself to do that.
I approve the minutes.
Okay, Christine has moved to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Nick, thank you. All in favor? Do we still have Manny? Because we don't have a quorum, technically, if Manny doesn't vote.
I think, well, his audio is not there, but his video is there.
I don't see any video, but like his name's there.
It looks like he's trying to reconnect.
Okay, we'll give him a minute. If he can't connect, then we'll just vote on it next month. Or at our special meeting, because we're gonna have a special meeting.
I think he's back.
Manny, are you there? If you don't have audio or video, but you can give us a thumbs up or a raised hand as to indicate that you approve the minutes from last month, that could work. All right, I think he's still having issues. If we can just put that on the agenda for our special meeting, it'll just be two things on the agenda: vote on the minutes and discuss the strategic plan. Does that sound good? Great. Okay. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for caring about walking and biking and dedicating some time on your Monday night to be here. And we'll let you go. Thanks for coming.
Have a good night.